Let us start this lecture with a thought process from Mahatma Gandhi. It is health that is real wealth and not pieces of gold and silver. In the last lecture, we are discussing about how our ancestors were manufacturing the gold and kind of things, and we are discussing about Kolar gold mine. And if you look at in India, basically three forms of gold can be found. One is alluvial sedimented deposit at a shallow depth in the river basin. In Nilgiris of Tamil Nadu, there have been some deposit which were dig up to the depth of 25 meter or more. And beside this, of course, there are some sands of several rivers like Sindh, Satluj, Ganges, Swan, Rekha and others, which contains the fine particles of gold. So, beside this, the metal nuggets and streaks are found in quartz veins at Kolar and Hathi gold mines, Karnataka. If you recall, the Karnataka was one of the oldest gold mine in the entire world. Here I am showing you two parts of a single gold coin, which was during the Vasudeva I around 191 to 230 CE. On the left hand side, you can see that a king is standing and which is sacrificing the things in an altar here. This is the altar kind of things, and it is having a trident here, and the resting on the left hand on the scepter, which is generally being used as a symbol of power by the king. And this is basically a kind of a stick which was used earlier days by kings. And second trident, this image is corresponding to the Shiva, because it was having bull Nandi is around here. It is having also a trident. So, therefore, this corresponding to Shiva. So, this was the gold, and beside this there are several gold jewelries were found in various parts, and we always feel that Indian jewelry is as old as Indian civilization itself. And you will find lot of evidences in the sculptures in the temple of Odisha, South India, Sanchi, Amaravati, and several also Ajanta paintings and several places. And these jewelries were being used by common man, king, and even man, woman and other things. Let us look at how they were separating the gold, and this method is being used even today in some remote areas of India, that is gravity separation, or some people call it panning. Why? Because they use a pan, and as shown in this figure, what they will be taking, this quartz rock or the hard solid first is to be crushed into fine particles, and then of course, the oversized particle can be screened out and put into a pan. This of course, you can use in water, pour the water into this pan and then agitate it, so that suspended particles which are lighter will be going out with the water, and some of the other particles which are lighter than the gold itself will be remaining here. On the bottom there is a heavy material like gold which will be remaining here, and this we call gangue, which is a useless ore and not of much importance. Basically, the gold particles settle down at the bottom of the pan, and sand and soils and other which we call it as a gangue are to be washed away. After this you obtain these gold particles, it can be separated very easily from the gangue, and it is to be sold to the goldsmith for melting, refining or shaping of the metal. So, this you can see this process looks to be quite simple, and people do use even today across the country, particularly the poor people use this method. There are various technology people have used to make jewelries and various items. These items I have shown some of them which are in ancient India. Of course, nowadays people are using. These are the gold ornaments were being designed and developed by in ancient India. Pure gold melts around 1063 degrees Celsius kind of things. For that you need to have a furnace. As I told earlier, the gold particles obtained by panning method was melted in a crucible refined by addition of fluxes like borax, which is basically sodium borate or sodium tetraborate. And this flux basically will be in ratios of 6:1:3 corresponding to the mixture of ammonium chloride and borax and ammonium nitrate. And this is basically used so that the slag and other thing can be flowed out very easily, so that the gold metal can be purified further. There is another method of separation of silver from gold was being used in ancient India, which is known as neari. The person who will be doing this separation of gold and silver was known as neari. There is another techniques which is used to form the gold particles or the gold spheres, that is known as granulation technique, which was in vogue in around late first millennium BC in India. I will just show you a picture which was taken during the British time of a goldsmith who is working in this painting. Around 1856 this painting was made. If you can see from here, that artisan is on the left side, this side is using blower tube to introduce more amount of oxygen, so that temperature will be going around maybe 1000 degrees Celsius, such that he can melt the gold and also work with it. Of course, beside this there are several other processes being done, forging and then embossing kind of thing, which we will be discussing. So, the purified metal bar was basically made by forging, punching or embossing extra for producing various ornaments having intricate designs. If you look at beside these gold coins were made by die casting in clay molds or by the technique of punch marking. Embossing, if you look at, is a process of metal work in which localized forces are to be used, such that metal can flow depending on the design which will be there on the projection of a die. In this picture, the artist with the help of a hammer and a tool is trying to emboss the plate, and this tool is having a die which is on the bottom, not shown in this figure, which is being used for making this design, that embossing design which is shown here. And this is a beautiful picture which has been embossed by the artist, and which needs a lot of patience and also very good perseverance for to do that, and also the skill. The forging is a method of metal work that is being used to apply the force in a such that lateral flow of material is not restricted by the tool or the die. I will just show you that what is being done is an anvil, right, where a gold ring is being made by the hammering it by using the basically forging, and those are the marks of hammering as shown here kind of things. And this will be very delicate work one has to do, and have a control over the force being applied by the artist. Let us look at little bit history. The Old Testament indicates that Oir, which is a port town, mention about export of silver and gold from India. Of course, this Ophir town is basically a mystic town which is not known where it is located. Some people claim it is to be located in South India, some people claim it is to be located in Gujarat, some people located in in some other countries like Greek or in the Africa. So, therefore, it is not really very much known. However, the Megasthenes who visited India around 350 to 290 BC has mentioned about the mining of the golds in various parts of India in the Neolithic to Chalcolithic and megalithic periods. And during the period of Asokan Empire, its capital was also known as Swarnagiri, and it is known for the golden splendor. So, from this evidence one can see that gold were being used in ancient India. Also still we are fond of gold. Let us now look at silver, because silver and lead always talked about it as it is together. As the gold is related to the sun, the Sanskrit word javal, to shine, the brilliant white metal silver has been related to moon. Earlier it was also called luna, and silver nitrate is still called the lunar caustic. So, the silver melting point is around 962 degrees Celsius. It has been found to occur in natural form like chlorogyrite. Basically, the mineral form of silver chloride, which I have shown here, an ore here of silver chloride. Argentite, which is a silver sulphide associated with the galena, and sulphurite, which is either it can be zinc sulphide or the ferric sulphide kind of things, is a mixed sulphide ores. This extraction of this kind of ores is said to be started in India around 3rd to 4th millennium BC with the development of techniques to treat the sulphide mineral, particularly the roasting and reduction method. And this is the argentite, what I have shown this from this color one can make out that this is silver sulphide. And during extraction of lead from the lead sulphide or the lead oxide, the silver sulphide also gets decomposed and reduced easily at around 470 degrees Celsius. And the problem is that it readily alloys with this metal at around 1000 degrees Celsius. So, therefore, that is the reason why the metallurgy of lead is being described along with the silver. Note that lead is one of the softest and heaviest metal having shining grey luster, which leaves a black streak on the paper, and it is used mostly for making cheap jewelleries, dyes, pattern mixed with copper to harden it. The lead artifacts have been reported from the Harappan period, but unfortunately it was not being used very much during that period due to its softness. But later on people started using it, and in South India the lead coins have been used in 1st to 2nd century BC, and it was the cheap coinage metal for considerable time. And the reactions occurring during the roasting of galena, if you look at, it will be 2 moles of lead sulphide is reacting with 3 moles of oxygen going to the 2 moles of lead oxide and sulphur dioxide. And this again lead sulphide and lead oxide will be reacting, it will be going to the lead and sulphur dioxide. And additionally, lead oxide can be reduced by the carbon at 500 degrees Celsius, or even the carbon monoxide which may be formed during this process can also react with lead oxide, giving the lead and carbon dioxide. During this process, what happens, the liquid lead alloys with the silver easily. Hence, it was first to be produce this alloy by co-reduction of lead and silver minerals. Then the pure silver is to be produced by the process of cupellation. As I told earlier, the cupellation process was also known during the Harappan period. Of course, we use the galena in Indian subcontinent, which is found in Rajasthan, Jawar, in small towns in Kashmir, Garhwal in Uttar Pradesh, Bihar and Kerala. One of the biggest deposit of galena and silver sulphide is found at Burma, and you people might be knowing that Burma is one of the major silver producer even today. Let us look at how lead and silver can be separated. The process used in ancient India, particularly Jawar of Rajasthan, was most probably the over hearth furnace, which I have shown here, and this is the schematic of a over hearth furnace, and where the roasting and reduction of rich galena is carried out in an open earth pit furnace. This is a open earth pit furnace, and if you look at it, is having the stone walls here, and there is a faggots and pit basically you can say kind of a coal or the charcoal and the ore together, it is being placed in this layer by layer, and then it has to be of course generally being placed in a hilly region, so that you will get a this melted lead can be collected in this pit. They choose that place suitably, so that slope will be there. And this is of course a cross section which is being taken here. These are the stone walls, right, these are the stone walls, and it will be in such furnace the temperature around 1000 degrees Celsius can be obtained easily because of natural draft, and the metal gets reduced and flowed because of slope will be there, and then it is collected in a pit. As I told earlier, the silver metal was obtained by alloy of lead and silver by reheating it in a shallow hearth furnace. This is a hearth furnace having the bottom prepared with the bone charcoals. See what will happen, this melted things will be coming over here, and this will be lined with the bones charcoals, so that cupellation method can be utilized to separate the silver. At this high temperature, the silver sulphide also get decomposed and forms an alloy with the molten metal. And during remelting of alloy, it is subject to oxidizing condition by blowing excess air, when the lead gets preferentially oxidized to PBO, which we call it as a litharge, because it has a very low melting point. The molten litharge is skimmed off and partially absorbed by the furnace earth. As I told, there is a bone charcoal which will be there, and that will be absorbing this litharge or the lead oxide, so that it will be separated easily. And this process is basically known as cupellation. So, cupellation, if you look at, is a refining process in metallurgy, where ores are treated under high temperature, have control operation to separate noble metal like gold, silver or any other metal from the base metal like lead, copper, zinc and others present in the ore. The cupel which I have shown here is basically a small vessel shaped in the form of inverted cone, because if you look at this like a inverted truncated cone made out of bone ash, like this generally surfaces, inner surfaces will be having bone ashes, which are used for the small scale cupellation for processing gold and silver in ancient India. Of course, nowadays in modern time it is having proper dimensions, like which I have shown here, like D1, and this is the total D, and there is certain thickness, and like height is maintained, and these are the place where the metal will be kept. And according to Cupellation Arthashastra, details about the cupellation for purification of silver is given. He has mentioned in this way: the impure silver may be heated 4 times with the copper sulphate, Suska tutha, and mixed with powder bone, that is Asti tutha, and again 4 times with equal quantity of lead, and again 4 times with the copper sulphate, again 3 times in a skull, and lastly twice with a cow dung, and by this process the silver is purified. He has mentioned that. That means, it very clearly state that the skull will be having the bone itself, and then that will be nothing but your acting like a separating the metal by the cupellation process. So, it clearly indicates that this process was being used in ancient India, the cupellation method, and there are also the evidences of crucibles found in different sites of India. Like if you look at this 1 to 2 is terracotta in Lodal regions, and of course, the 3 also the stone in the Lothal region. 4 to 5 terracotta in R in UP, 6 to 7 is the Antarji Khera, that is 6 to 7. This kind of cupola were found during excavations, and Rajghat is 8 to 9 kind of cultivation, 11 to 16 in if you look at 11, 12, 13, 14 like 16s are in Taxila, and 1721 in a Halli history of Bokhardhan people found. That means, if you look at this this evidence, it is very clear that people were using that cupel and also the crucibles for melting the silver and also the separating the lead from out of it in ancient time. So, with this I will stop over here, and we will be discussing the next lecture about the copper, which is a part and parcel of Indian life, because of fact that it is related to our rituals. Thank you very much.